I, 26 male, was hanging out with my girlfriend of almost a year, 25 female, the other night at my apartment. We were watching a movie marathon and had ordered some food off Grubhub. After the order arrived, I looked in the bag and said, "Damn it, they forgot my blue cheese dressing for my wings." It wasn't a huge deal, so I just shrugged and said, "Nah, well, whatever," and sat down to eat. My girlfriend said, "Well, call them back. Either get them to bring out the blue cheese or get some money off the order." I told her that it was just a side of blue cheese and it really wasn't a big deal. I actually had some blue cheese in my refrigerator anyway, but she insisted that both Grubhub and the restaurant had screwed up and that they need to make it right. We went back and forth, and I finally just said that I wasn't in the mood to go making a big deal out of blue cheese, and that if I didn't care, she shouldn't care. She seemed to let it go at that, but maybe an hour later as we were watching our movie, she suddenly said, "You know, I like that you are a laid-back, easygoing sort of guy. My ex always made a huge deal out of everything and used to give anyone serving him a hard time if they didn't make everything perfect. But I do kind of miss the way he'd stand up for himself and me, and I sometimes wish you were more that way." For context, before we got together, we had both recently gotten out of long-term multi-year relationships. At first, I didn't say much, just something like, "Well, he's him and I'm me." However, her comment bothered me. It seemed really snide and targeted, and like she was saying I was less of a man than her ex, just because I didn't go throwing a tantrum anytime something didn't go my way. So maybe 15 minutes later, I admit I was stewing. I said, "You know, as long as we are comparing exes, I like that you are more down to earth and at ease with yourself than my ex. But sometimes I don't think it's all that cute when you just openly burp and fart in front of me and laugh about it. Or how you never like to dress up and don't like to wear makeup. I do kind of miss her sense of femininity that you don't seem to possess." This comment didn't go over well, to say the least. In fact, we got into a huge fight and the evening was ruined, and we are still going back and forth about it. I admit that my comment was probably kind of passive-aggressive, but I was just trying to show her how bad it feels to be compared to an ex. Am I the a-hole? Everyone sucks here. She absolutely started this, but you sure retaliated. I suspect with this willingness to hurt each other over a relatively minor issue, you two aren't going to make it, and I would cut my losses with her and move on. If you both had just gotten out of long-term relationships before getting together, then this may be just a rebound thing anyway. On what I hope is a constructive note, you both could use some therapy or relationship coaching to learn how to communicate more openly and better, so you don't find yourselves repeating these snide passive-aggressive fights in the future. Everyone sucks here. It's a really immature way to handle it, because you know how else you could handle it? Hey, it's not cool that you're comparing me to your ex, and it makes me feel like crap. Everyone sucks here. Neither of you should have brought up your exes, and she's more the a-hole for bringing hers up first. That said, her criticism was situationally appropriate. She was responding to the blue cheese thing, while yours was just to be hurtful, which makes you an a-hole too. Edit and update. To be honest, I felt completely justified in what I'd said to my girlfriend when I wrote this. I thought that she was completely out of line, and that I was only giving back to her what she'd given to me. However, reading your comments has made me realize that I still have some growing up to do. I called my girlfriend yesterday and talked to her. I told her that I was really sorry about what I'd said to her. I told her that I didn't mean it, that I just felt bad after what she'd told me, and that I was trying to make her feel bad in return. I then said, "But please, don't compare me to your ex in order to make a point again. It's really underhanded and it's not something I'm going to put up with. If you don't like something I do or have a problem, just talk to me about it. Nothing good will ever come of bringing up your ex into the discussion." She actually started crying and then apologized for comparing, and said that it was wrong. She admitted that she was trying to shame me into being more assertive and that I had really hurt her with what I came back with. We agreed to some new boundaries, and I hope anyway, that we are good for now. Some people have suggested that we are in a rebound situation. Maybe, maybe not. But I really love her and want things to work out with her, which is why she had the power to hurt me to the point where I turned into a dumb child. My son and his ex split up about 6 months ago. He moved out. They have a kid together. Their lease is up in January, so he's still paying his half, but after that, it's up to his ex to pay it on her own. She can't afford it, so she's been looking for a new place to stay, but it's very hard. We live in a tourist town, so not only is year-round housing expensive, it's also incredibly hard to find. I'd say 85 to 90% of landlords around here prefer to rent their properties out as weekly vacation rentals. My son had an easier time finding a place because he's a truck driver, meaning their child isn't with him the majority of the time. He's either with me or his mom. So my son was able to move 30 minutes away where year-round rentals are much cheaper and easier to find. His ex can't move there because the schools are crap. The schools in our town are amazing, some of the best in our state. My husband and I live in a house that was built to be a vacation home. Our main house is on stilts and there's a 1.5-bedroom apartment underneath. It's tiny, but it's got a full kitchen and bathroom. I say 0.5 bedroom because one of the rooms isn't technically a room. no windows or closet, but it's big enough for a twin bed and a small dresser. We used to use it for my mother-in-law to stay in when she would visit, so she didn't have to walk up the stairs, but she's passed away. It's now used as a guest room, but we don't get many guests. I told my son's ex she could live there. We only asked for two things: money towards groceries, $50 a month to go towards dinner and snacks for our grandson when we watch him, and they are welcome to eat dinner with us whenever, and to pay for any damage her cat may do. Don't think this will be an issue, but just in case. I don't see the issue. She's a nice girl. We have a close relationship due to us being the go-to babysitters for our grandson. Not an issue at all. We love it. And I know her landlord personally, and he has nothing but positive things to say about her, and my son. My son is livid. He thinks it's inappropriate, and asked me to not do some dysfunctional bullcrap like that. I wasn't asking his permission though. I was just giving him a heads up. I already made the offer and his ex accepted. Am I the a-hole for doing this? Not the a-hole. I don't think your son is a huge one, as I'm sure this does feel awkward for him. But they didn't end on bad terms. No deception or cheating, etc. And you're doing a good thing by ensuring the mother of your grandchildren has a safe place to live. Info. Did they have a particularly messy split? I'm inclined to vote either not the a-hole or no a-hole. But I'd like to know a little bit about the circumstances first, if that's okay. Things were pretty bad the year leading up to their breakup, but they seemed to get better shortly before they broke up. I think they finally realized that they didn't have to be together, and soon they wouldn't be, so they coexisted better. I haven't heard any real complaints from either side, no arguments. They were able to work out a schedule. We all took grandson trick-or-treating, and it was perfectly fine. Not the a-hole. Just because your son no longer has a close relationship with her does not mean that you don't have to. Especially because she is the mother of your grandchild. I think it is very compassionate and appropriate to help her in her time of need. If your son is angry because you are helping to provide for the welfare of his child and the child's mother, then that's his problem. I, 35 male, and my wife, 32 female, went to her family event last night. Now, to give a little detail, I own two houses, one that my wife and I live in and another that I inherited. I've been renting the other house for the last couple of years. Recently my tenant has moved out and the house is up for rent. I am a very meticulous person. I keep track of all the rent payments, maintenance, repair, emails regarding the rental house. I treat this rental thing as a business as it has contracts and so on. So at the event, my brother-in-law who recently got married talked about the rental house of mine and its availability. He asked if it was fine if he and his wife came down there to take a look at that house as they're interested in renting that place. My brother-in-law is a nice guy and all, but renting to family and friends tend to complicate relationships in my opinion. I've also heard stories where relatives take advantage of landlords when it comes to payment. Things get real messy. So I told him it was up for rent and they're more than welcome to come and take a look. But if they're serious about renting that place, I wouldn't recommend it. I told him that the neighbor is a very nasty person, and that was the main reason my previous tenant left. I also told him several parking feuds have happened between my previous tenant and him. This is all a lie just to discourage brother-in-law from renting that house. That neighbor does park his car in my driveway, but that's because the house is empty at the moment. After that, everything went on as normal and my spouse and I were driving back home. She knew that I lied and asked the reason, thinking I just hate brother-in-law, which isn't true. I told her that renting to relatives and friends can be dangerous as it can affect relationships. It's just that I don't want to jeopardize family relationships by getting it mixed up with professional stuff. We had a back-and-forth argument regarding this, where she just says how hard it is for her brother to get a place to live, and we should rent my house to him. I just keep repeating the risks of renting to a family member. At the end of it, I told her, fine, if brother-in-law and his spouse want to rent the place, they can do so. But I do warn you, I won't be treating them any differently from my previous tenants. No family discounts or extra leniency. I would be strictly professional with them when it comes to the rental matter, and I would expect them to act the same. If it ever affected family relations or family events became awkward, it's your fault. She didn't say a word the rest of the ride, and has been giving me the cold shoulder since then. I feel like my point is valid, but also at the same time, I understand that it can be difficult to get a decent place to stay in this economy. So, am I the a-hole? She just says how hard it is for her brother to get a place to live. Big red flag. It's never a good idea to rent a family, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Many people have been screwed over when it comes to family, and it's not worth it. Better to not rent to them. P.S. This also goes for lending money. Might as well expect to not get it back. Everyone sucks here. You shouldn't put your wife in a position to keep up a lie to her family, and she shouldn't push you once she realized the idea made you uncomfortable. Edit. I've seen a lot of comments about the lying part telling me to be upfront with brother-in-law. In a perfect world where people don't get offended by everything, this would have worked, but most probably not in that situation. Even if my brother-in-law took it well, the other family members at dinner would have taken it the wrong way, and it would be a mess. That's something I was avoiding in the first place. I was trying to keep the peace. Info. We live in a country in Southeast Asia, and we're a particular race that makes renting hard. Basically, got a lot of racism in the rental business towards our race. On top of that, the area we live in is close to a university and slumlords prefer to rent their units to several students in a house with minimal furniture. Students don't mind the high price since they separate the rent 4 ways, or even 5 in certain units. I don't want to rent out to students as the turnover rate is high and too much of a hassle. Looking for a tenant that can live 2 to 3 years. Brother-in-law staying with his parents. This is normal in our culture. Usually people move out when they get married. I also moved out when I got married. I don't know anything about his rental history during college years or his financials. Update. Talked to my wife regarding this and found out she does expect me to give a bit of a discount to brother-in-law. She was also the person who notified him regarding the house's availability. I talked to her regarding this. Told her that it's nice that she wants to help, but also showed a couple of examples how it might turn out. Some examples like how awkward it would be if they were late on rent, and I gave them a warning. Or if they asked to upgrade a certain appliance when it worked properly. Or if they painted the house without consulting me. She finally understood my fears and apologized. I'm gonna recommend a good realtor for brother-in-law, and maybe help him with the whole house inspection and legal side of stuff, but definitely not rent mine to him, as it was a crappy move to ask me to rent it to him in front of everyone, backing me into a corner. I do feel bad about the white lie though. I'm 33 and my brother is 23. He graduated with his computer science degree last December and asked if he could move in with me temporarily while he looked for a job. I said sure, as long as you pay me $75 a week. A week later, he flies to San Francisco from Florida, and a week after that, he lands a part-time job as a waiter. These last few months went pretty smoothly. He's enjoying San Francisco, making lots of friends, and, with my help, polishing up his resume since he's having a bit of trouble finding a tech job. Before I go any further, let me state that I've been cheated on by 2 different ex-girlfriends, and therefore absolutely despise cheaters. My brother knows this. To make a long story short, last night I find out that my brother is cheating on his long-distance girlfriend with a girl he met here. I show him the incriminating evidence and tell him to pack his crap and leave. All day today I've been bombarded by texts from my parents asking me to let him move back in. Even after I explained the situation, they said to let him move back in anyway because he's family. I told a coworker what happened and he tells me that my brother's romantic life isn't my business and that I'm a huge a-hole for doing what I did. Meanwhile, another coworker who overheard that conversation says that my actions were completely justified. Not the a-hole. Screw people who cheat. I despise cheaters with a passion. On what planet does cheating on your girlfriend or boyfriend give your brother the right to kick you out of an apartment you're paying rent in? So, by the logic here, if you share housing with a roommate and they find out you cheated on your boyfriend or girlfriend, they should be able to kick you out that second? No, that's not okay. Yes, cheating is awful and shouldn't be done. So is kicking someone out for your own issues. Everyone sucks here, only because there's this disproportionate disconnect between action and punishment. He doesn't deserve to not have a roof over his head because he's cheating. And by your own volition, you said as long as he pays you $75 a week, he can live there. You can't just change the terms to fit your comfort. His personal life is his own, and if my roommate did anything remotely similar, I'd be pissed. Not the a-hole. But as ever in these types of threads, your brother may have tenancy rights, and you have to legally evict him, especially if he was paying rent. I think you've taught your brother what it's like to have trust betrayed as well as the concept of consequences. Update. I've decided that I'm going to text him to come talk with me at my apartment. I will then give him a stern lecture and then offer 2 options. 1. Give him 30 days to either move back to Florida or find somewhere else to live. But in the meantime, the rent will be $125 a week. 2. He can continue living with me, but rent will be $250 a week.